Hello, everybody, and welcome to Onset 2, Leveraging Digital Carbon. Thanks so much for joining us. We have approaching 500 registrants today, so thanks so much for taking the time to come and join us today. So whilst we're waiting for others to join, I see the attendees list just ticking up. I'll give a bit of a preamble into what we'll be presenting today and the program for the hour. So we have a packed program today with excellent speakers from our partners and colleagues from EcoRegistry, StarCB, and Provide Services. Today's session will build on the framework we established introducing the new digital carbon market in Onset 1, showing practical examples of how organizations are leveraging digital carbon at each stage of the value chain. We'll finish up with an announcement from our product team, which we think will really push the boundaries of what's possible for digital carbon. So make sure to stay tuned until the end of the session. So I'll just start to take you through the program for today as we're waiting for more people to come in. So we'll start today with a bit of a recap on what digital carbon is, why it's so important, and why it's so valuable to satisfy some of the challenges and ambitions required of the voluntary carbon market. So following this, we'll show you how you can interact with digital carbon and explore the data and carbon credit pools on KlimaDAO. We'll then move into live case studies, showing a blockchain native registry, EcoRegistry, bridging credits directly to the digital carbon market. Next, we cover project financing and trading possibilities around digital carbon with our partners at StarCB. And last but not least, we'll dive into Provide Services Eco products, which demonstrates the possibilities for massive demand aggregation for digital carbon with enterprise-level integrations. Finally, we'll have an exciting announcement from the KlimaDAO product team, which we think will be a game changer for the potential of digital carbon and for the voluntary carbon market as a whole. If there's time, we hope to take questions at the end, so please do add your questions live. We'll try to answer them either as we go or at the end. If we run out of time, we'll look to publish an FAQ from this webinar covering most of the bases we don't have time to cover. So today we have quite a few speakers, with Juan from EcoRegistry, Wasim from StarCB, Ryan from Provide Services, as well as Andrew Bonneau, Gabriel Kent, and myself representing KlimaDAO. And for those who couldn't join Onset 1, I wanted to give a quick overview of the digital carbon market ecosystem as we see it from the lens of KlimaDAO. So we start on the left here with carbon project origination and credit issuance, onto bridging to liquidity provisioning, which leads to the potential for retirements via KlimaDAO's aggregator and integrations. KlimaData here on the right offers unprecedented transparency and live market information on the macro and micro aspects, from pool composition to demographic data on individual projects within pools. So what's really exciting today, and I'll mention this again for those who may not have joined a bit late, is we have partners who work at each level of the value chain, with Juan from EcoRegistry talking about this first stage of carbon project development, credit issuance, and creation of digital carbon. Wasim from StarCB will cover financing projects and trading of digital carbon. And last but not least, we have Ryan from Provide Services, who'll be talking about integrations and demand aggregation for digital carbon. And at the end of this session, we're going to show you something which we hope brings together all of these exciting aspects of the value chain and enhances what you can do with the tooling of KlimaDAO as well. So with that, I'll take you through a quick recap on what digital carbon is and why it's so important and beneficial to the ecosystem as a whole. So to recap some of the distinct characteristics of public blockchains, they provide a shared, immutable ledger for recording transactions and tracking assets. Applications can be governed by smart contracts. These are essentially conditions for transferring assets or sending information, and smart contracts are utilized throughout the refi space, including in KlimaDAO's retirement aggregator, which is our tool for retiring digital carbon assets on the blockchain. Digital carbon and its underlying blockchain infrastructure is seen as a recognized solution to many of the carbon market's challenges, including by institutions such as the World Bank. Digital carbon has unique benefits in that it's transparent, traceable, and enables new types of liquidity provisioning. It's also near instantaneous to interact with and can be well suited to fractionalization of credits and automated retirements driven by smart contracts. So with that in mind, we're developing the KlimaDAO ecosystem, to enable greater interoperability, transparency, and efficiency of the overall carbon market. A number of collaborators are already connecting to and building on top of the technology today, some of whom you'll hear from later on in this session. With that, I'll pass it on to Andrew, who's going to go a bit deeper into the potential and tools available to interact with digital carbon.
Great. Thank you, Vishal. Wonderful to see so many people here from both the Web3 space and the VCM at large. So let's dive in then to interacting with digital carbon. Well, it starts with carbon pools. So carbon pools play a key role in the digital carbon market and allow for increased liquidity for projects that share certain criteria. The current pools on-chain utilize filtering predominantly based on the methodologies employed by carbon projects, as well as their vintage. But an important aspect of pooling is that it reduces liquidity fragmentation across projects, and it helps increase the overall efficiency of carbon trading itself. And while there's only a handful of pools now, we envision a future where there's many new pools that are created as the overall digital carbon market liquidity increases. And perhaps these new pools will be based on criteria held by certain corporate groups, or based on registries that are developing new types of project methodologies. Could even include geography of the projects or their SDG impacts. So here's an overview then of current carbon pool requirements. Both UBO, which is the Universal Base Offset, and BCT, the Base Carbon Ton, accept the majority of their methodologies and are currently composed of primarily renewable energy credits. In contrast, both NBO, which is the Nature-Based Offset, and NCT, the Nature Carbon Ton, as the names imply, have stricter methodology requirements focused on nature-based projects, such as REDD+, or afforestation, reforestation, and revegetation, or ARR. So additional pools are on the horizon, and currently our partner C3 is defining pool characteristics for blue carbon, as well as a carbon removal focused nature-based pool. And one way you can think of the pool tokens themselves is that they represent an index of different types of carbon projects. And importantly, one can always select individual projects from within these pools when either making a retirement or redeeming them to retire at a later date. So to drill further down into the idea of selected project redemption, here's a dashboard from one of the main carbon pools on chain, NBO. So pool tokens like NBO can be viewed in our dashboard to view the specific projects they contain. And here you can see NBO contains more than 28,000 tons of the Pacajai project in Brazil. So each of the individual projects from within this pool can be traced back to the originating registry, which in this case is Verra. So to summarize, digital carbon holds a number of different advantages over traditional carbon offsets in terms of the traceability, transparency, and importantly, their programmability. And right now you can view all the carbon that's on the Polygon blockchain at carbon.klimadao.finance, and that's our carbon dashboard. And you can selectively redeem specific carbon credits from within these pools at any time via the KlimaDAO app. And there you can hold, trade, or retire these assets. So with that, I'm really excited for us to move forward with our case studies here. We're going to dive into a number of them that provide concrete examples of how blockchain technology is being utilized in the VCM. And we're going to start by introducing EcoRegistry, which is a blockchain-based carbon registry. And so with that, I'm going to pass this to Juan. Juan, are you with us? Do a quick mic and video check.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks to KlimaDAO for inviting us to present in this interesting onset. So, I will introduce a little bit what we do at EcoRegistry and specifically why we see connectivity as the key for sharing information and bringing more transparency to carbon markets. And I fully agree with what was previously said about building an ecosystem. So actually what KlimaDAO is doing in building this ecosystem is what will bring trust, knowledge, and knowing more about the projects in the projects. Can we go next, please? Next slide. Thank you. So actually why we started EcoRegistry was specifically that problem about the ecosystem, and we started because project developers and people that were trying to implement solutions, they didn't know exactly how to start developing a project or where to go, for example, how to get answers. They were asking lots of people, lots of standards, registry systems, but they didn't get the right answers or the right directions. So what we started is, why don't we start building an ecosystem and bringing the process of creating a carbon credit in a more simple way with the required integrity and trust and transparency, so that investors would trust the system. And specifically at the end, you always need connectivity to empower the people that are doing the efforts on the field, to connect to the systems and to be able to perform better and get more from each one of the carbon credits. So next, please. So actually, how EcoRegistry works is that we work independently. The registry system as a technology platform, independent to the carbon crediting standard. And that's very important for us, because the carbon crediting standard focuses on the environmental technical aspects of the equation, and we focus on the technological aspects of the equation. So from the beginning, when the project developers start formulating the project, they have to go through the validation, verification, and the MRB processes. These are difficult processes that need to have a lot of knowledge about how to create everything. So actually, the platform makes it very easy for the project developers to go and fulfill all the information, and also to connect to the digitized MRB solution. And until the issuance process, all the interactions are done through the platform, so that the validation and verification body goes into the platform. The findings are set on the platform, so that they exchange all the information with the project developer on the platform, so that everything is transparent, and that you can follow at the end. The end buyer will be able to follow every single aspect of how the credits came to be. So that's very important for us. And until the issuance process, then the credit, our system works as a repository that is based on blockchain technology and has always a footprint of all the documentation that supports each one of the carbon credits. Then in the issuance process, what we do is that we generate a token specifically for each one of the credits, for each one of the serial numbers, that takes into account all the attributes, for example, inside of the token, so that you have vintage, methodology, and everything inside of the same token, so that they can go to the market and exchange that information in a more, let's say, digitized way. So that's how we like to go to the market, and then the market can see all the information about the token itself, and the token will represent all the information from the project, and then they can go to the retirement phase. Next one, please. So about Share Carbono, it's very important. They were elected as the runner-up for the best GHG program in the environmental finance survey last year, and they are working very hard. It's like a bottom-up developed standard that takes into account the realities on field, so that they can bring all this knowledge from restoration, reforestation, and community services actually directly to the world. So not like a top-down approach, but more a bottom-up approach that takes into account all this knowledge that has been gathered over the years. Next one, please. And from our side in EcoRegistry, what we do is we focus a lot on the technology, how to make things simple, agile. We are, for example, the first registry that is actually connected to the Climate Action Data Trust. The Climate Action Data Trust is a meta registry developed by the World Bank initiative. So it was called before like the Climate Warehouse. So right now it's the Climate Action Data Trust, and it's very important because it will give a common model to exchange information and also give transparency, so that you can compare projects, and at the end, data and data analytics is what will bring value to each one of the projects and each one of the credits, achieving for more high quality performance. So, and for us, very important also, we accompany a lot of the process, so that multiple projects can go into the market with a service-based architecture, so that they can connect very easy, and providing also safety and trust to everybody. So I believe that's all. Next one, please. Yeah, so I believe that's all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Juan. Great to have you here. So just as a pretty, quick recap then of blockchain-based registries. So, they hold many of the benefits that we've spoken about regarding digital carbon, including transparency and interoperability, native interoperability with different types of blockchain-based applications. And so the testament of that is that EcoRegistry was actually the first carbon registry connected with the Climate Action Data Trust, which is a blockchain-based data platform. And additionally, blockchain native registries often benefit from the improved security and network uptime that blockchains enable through their distributed nature. So with that, I'm really pleased to welcome Asim from Star CB to now take the floor.
Thank you guys for organizing such interesting events and for having me again. Yeah, so as on the content slide, for those who are not familiar with SCB, I'll start with a brief introduction of our business and the areas in which we are operating. And then I'll move to two key components of the market, which are carbon project financing and the circularity of the voluntary carbon market. And I will then throw a detailed analogy on the benefits of these two, on the benefits of the digitalization on these two elements. So yeah, next slide, please. Thank you. So yeah, at SCB, we're a world-leading environmental commodity organization. We've been operating in this space for 17 years with the mission of promoting the adoption of a low-carbon future in the most efficient way. For the last 17 years, we've been working in scaling up more than 20 environmental commodities, ranging from biofuels to battery components for EVs, for example. And we facilitate the transactions that have abated in excess of 600 million tons of CO2 equivalent. On my side, I am part of our carbon arm, where we work with all market stakeholders from origination by providing carbon capital for new project and route to market for the credits that are generated, to supporting corporates on their path to carbon neutrality by providing services like advisory, emission calculation, and offsetting of their residual emissions with high impact projects in the locations that make sense with regards to each organization's sustainability goals and operations, of course. So through our carbon arm in 2022 alone, we've transacted more than 70 million tons of CO2 equivalent. And so our relationship with the digitalized carbon market, so we're long-standing power users of all these digital solutions, and SCB have been at the forefront of leveraging technology to unlock the full potential of the voluntary carbon market. And we recognize a very high value that digitalization can bring to the market. So from increasing transparency, as one was saying, to enhancing the liquidity and improving efficiency of most of the processes that the markets rely on. Yeah, please, the next one. Yeah, so that leads me to speak about the first market element, which is project financing. So a key aspect of our mission is built around financing new projects with high climate, social and biodiversity impacts in the areas where the funding is most needed and where a very small incremental change can make a big difference. As mentioned, we finance this project, but our support doesn't just end there. We collaborate hand in hand with seasoned project developers to ensure exceptional implementation and make local stakeholders a central part of each project we provide capital to. And as part of the high impact projects we've helped, the first one on the right side table, where KlimaDAO has shown their involvement in helping the digital carbon market scale by investing with us in this early stage project. This project holds a significant meaning to us, especially considering the geographical and political challenges surrounding the region of implementation. And in areas with limited accessibility and great need for assistance, initiatives like this demonstrate that the voluntary carbon market not only has a climate impact, but also a profound social and human aspect. So it's very important when describing all the pieces of the value chain of the carbon market, or the supply chain of the carbon market. It's very important to stress that project developers are essential to the market's success in achieving the climate objectives. And therefore, it is crucial to ensure that they conduct their activities in the most sustainable way possible, and that they're not exposed to market volatility. And that's where I see digitalization can provide powerful tools to reduce their exposure to the market, de-risk, and hedge them and their investors. And it would also provide transparency, early price discovery, which is also very important to scale the capital, the amount of capital that is going where it's needed. Add to that the digital MRV, then by that I mean measuring, reporting, verification. This will all speed up the processes that are representing kind of a bottleneck now, and therefore unlock more capital to the markets. Can move to the next slide, please. So now that we've talked about the project financing, there is a very important concept that I want to speak about, which is the circularity of the carbon markets and the concept of closing the loop. So as we know, the voluntary carbon market operates in a circular manner. By that, basically, I mean there is the first impulse of capital that needs to go to the origination phase. And then you have these different phases that are registration, verification, and finally issuance of the credits. Once these credits are issued, from there they need to find a way to the market, either to the wholesale or to the retail market, and in the hands of the end user for the retirement and claim. But then for the market to scale, a part of this value needs to go back to origination. And that's what I mean by closing, or that's what I call closing the loop. It is something that we value and see as very important at SCB. And to add to that, every component of this circularity of the voluntary carbon market should work in a coordinated and very efficient way for the market to deliver on the climate goals. And this is basically where I see the digitalization of the carbon market bringing a lot of value. And if we can move to the next slide, I'll show you where the digitalization can integrate in each one of these elements. So let's start from the project. Development part. So digital MRV and on-chain issuance will speed up most of the processes that are currently representing a bottleneck, as I was saying, in the market. And probably this bottleneck in issuance is maybe holding off some investors, maybe holding off some capital. Now, if we can make the data coming out of projects more accurate, faster, and more recurrent, and issuance processes faster, we will unlock certainly more capital to impactful projects that contribute to climate, biodiversity, and social issues, basically. So here is like the first benefits on the value chain that digitalization can bring. Then when going to the markets, either wholesale or retail, end users, traders, corporations will profit from deep liquidity in pools and different marketplaces as well. This is helpful to bring the transparency and the price discovery that is much needed in the market. Especially the carbon market is very scattered, and you can have two projects in neighboring locations that trade at different levels. So having more price discovery, having more depth in pools, and having more transparency is just very beneficial to the market. Then once the credits are purchased by an end user, they can retire them, and the claim will be stored, traceable, and available, accessible for everyone on chain to see and to check even later on. Then back to the project financing. As I said, we need to close this loop. So I see that on-chain financing, hedging, and de-risking will be happening on forward pools and forward market places, generating early price discovery. This is very important because project developers sometimes will tend to wait a few years before seeing any revenue from the project, and that's unfortunately get them to stop working on these projects. So if we have an early price discovery, if we have a faster reinjection of capital in these projects, we will see the market scaling very fast and in a sustainable way. Yeah, so that's, I think, all for me. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Vasim, for that. So in summary, blockchain holds potential to help shorten the loop essentially between demand side participants and the carbon project developers themselves. And there's even work there looking at how a certain portion of revenues from carbon trading itself can be programmatically directed back to the project developers that originally brought those credits on chain, which is a really interesting innovation. Digital carbon holds unique characteristics that can assist with sourcing. For example, if you just go to our carbon dashboard, you can see everything that is available on the Polygon blockchain currently. And finally, the infrastructure already exists to source and retire digital carbon, redeem specific projects from carbon pools, and soon to bring new carbon on chain. And with that, an exciting area of digital carbon is programmability and some of the integrations that can be achieved. And so I'm happy to welcome Ryan from Provide Services.
Hey, thank you, Drew, and thank you, KlimaDAO team, for inviting me here today. I'm excited to share more about what we're doing with Provide Eco, and specific to how that addresses a very important customer segment for digital carbon, being the Fortune 500. I'm the SAP architect and dev evangelist at Provide, and we specialize primarily in Web3 infrastructure for enterprise. And an important consideration we had actually when evaluating the creation of this project was actually what are the strategic priorities and objectives of the Fortune 500. We can go on to the next slide actually here. So if you look at the level of carbon emissions across the Fortune 500, it's quite large. It's billions of tons, right? Because these are the companies that are building products and services for all of us, the whole world over, and collectively, with or without any kind of government intervention, they have a mandate to get to net zero, often by 2030 or earlier, as well as some more aggressive ones that are also by 2050 as well. And in addition to, just reducing emissions within the company itself, there will always be some emissions that will exist in some form that they will have to offset. Now, there's some challenges, though, to acquiring those offsets, right? And using the data effectively as well. So one of which is having a marketplace, right? Such as KlimaDAO, that's available to source and retire digital carbon, to make sure there's this really good integrity around the data to eliminate double counting. But there's also this issue of scope 3 emissions, which are this idea of what are the carbon emissions, further up and down your value chain, right? And I'll remark here a little bit about how we tackle that specific issue. But generally, yes, there's a huge area of demand for digital carbon for Fortune 500 enterprises. So if we can move on to the next slide, just as I said, right, is like we're going to be able to bring the enterprise into this digital carbon market that they hadn't had access to before, and also do a second thing whereby we can improve their actual reporting with atomic offsets. More about that here following. So the entirety of the Provide Eco solution looks something like this, right? And these existing enterprises, they run enterprise systems such as ServiceNow or SAP. And, if inside of every one of these companies, you have the heartbeat of all of the finance operations, supply chain, manufacturing, and at an engineering level and data level, this is where you can disaggregate where those carbon emissions are coming from, right? With that data that's often already gathered, what we enable with Provide Eco is to connect into KlimaDAO, the digital carbon marketplace. And a further consideration we've made as well is a fiat crypto bridge, right? There's a lot of uncertainty regarding enterprises adopting Web3, if it's a good fit or not, and ultimately on-chain settlement. I personally believe that's a big future end goal for enterprises, but we offer that fiat crypto bridge in such a way that enterprises can interact with KlimaDAO in the same way that they would like any other vendor, right? Just with fiat-based billing. And we have this concept of atomic offsets, right? Where we're merging small sets of data from the SAP system or a ServiceNow system to an individual carbon retirement. And I think the next slide will explain this a bit better by what I mean. So if you think about this, right, even though it's billions and billions of carbon emissions, that are coming from a large enterprise, you can, at a micro level, bring it down to a document level, right? So like a purchase order level or manufacturing order level, and it may only be a small amount of carbon emissions, just for that one business activity, right? So folks in the KlimaDAO community might see this as very familiar because it's actually very similar to the green freeze switch that Susie Schwab had implemented to do programmatic offsetting by transaction level. Here we're doing the same thing, but just for supply chains, actually, right? So Provide Eco, works as this tool that does this programmatic offsetting per supply chain document. And we've made the module Provide Eco very flexible, such that whether it's you're measuring carbon emissions by purchase orders or manufacturing or finance activities or something else, you'll be able to access this carbon retirement as a service, as we call, through the Provide Eco and Web3 infrastructure integrated to Klima. Let's go to the next slide. And this, in case I didn't hit on it just yet, right? So with an atomic offset, you have, one set of business data being the carbon aggregate of some kind, that's their purchase order in this example. And then you have the carbon retirement, right? Which is represented by some redemption of tokens that are, taken through the KlimaDAO carbon retirement aggregator. And that's an atomic offset. Internally, that improves a lot of things concerning reporting. And what we have a unique specialty at Provide is doing something called zero knowledge cryptography. And this is an emerging area that many in crypto follow very closely. But what zero knowledge cryptography does is it lets you assert some statement is true without having to reveal the underlying data, right? So with proof of atomic offset, we can, if we go back just a moment, can we go back a slide here, just a sec? With proof of atomic offset, we can, express those characteristics of that business document related to that carbon retirement in a privacy preserving way. So why do that? Actually, now we can get to the next slide. Actually, this deals with Scope 3 reporting, and I hope I can walk you through this diagram. But company A, company B, they're purchasing together, or they're doing some kind of business process together. One thing that happens as they're executing this business process is that they have the Scope 3 verification, right? Where they have only some partial bits of data, or they have other business partners or NGOs or standards bodies or regulators that want to observe, like if this is net zero or not. Proof of atomic offset enables it such that this zero knowledge cryptography makes the Scope 3 reporting much easier and with a lot less friction. Going on to the next slide. what we do with proof of atomic offset is we also have an Ethereum lit layer 3, right? So we can go through and do edge compute and make sure that these ZK proofs are distributed in a high throughput, cost effective way, and bring them back on chain, right? And the reason for doing that is that hardens the characteristics of that carbon retirement relative to a business process to further mitigate double counting. Next slide. So I read through a number of characteristics about Provide Eco, and if you want to learn more about Provide Eco and how you can get involved, you can reach out to me. You'll follow us on Twitter to learn more about Provide Eco, and you can show your support with the palm tree and deciduous tree there. Later today or later this week, we have a video that's on the cutting room floor that actually demonstrates a live demo of Provide Eco from an SAP system interacting to the digital carbon market. So with that, I'm very glad to be here today. And if you have questions about how to integrate the Fortune 500 to the digital carbon market, give me a shout. I'll hand it back to Drew.
Super. Thanks so much, Ryan. Glad to have Provide here. In summary, integration opportunities and leveraging digital carbon enable a few different things. They provide automated offsetting capabilities based on types of data that are coming in. Could be related to the carbon accounting of supply chain emissions, for example. They provide offset integration with that live carbon accounting data, and they provide that full traceability from carbon credit issuance, let's say the blockchain-based registry, all the way to the final retirement of that offset itself. And so with that said, I believe we're ready here for the big reveal on what we've been working on. And I'm happy to bring up Gabriel from our team, the head of product, to dive into that.
Thank you, Drew. Hello, everyone. I am Gabriel Kent. I lead product at KlimaDAO, and I'm very excited to share with you an exclusive sneak peek of what we've been working on very hard at KlimaDAO over the last 6 to 8 months. So before I explain exactly what it is we're going to be releasing this month, I want to just give a little bit of background. So about 1.5 years ago, KlimaDAO launched. We had a successful public raise. We incentivized over 25 million carbon credit tons to come on chain. We captured just over 18 million of those tons in our treasury. We built the single largest source of carbon credit liquidity on chain or off. We spawned an entire new industry called ReFi, which stands for regenerative finance. Over the last year or so, we saw over $4 billion worth of digital carbon credit trade through our liquidity pools. But early on, we immediately set about building the back-end infrastructure to support these assets. So how do you buy these assets from the liquidity pools? How do you hold them? How do you sell them? How do you retire them? These were very important, of course, to enable the digital carbon market. Initially, we built what I call a more utilitarian interface. So you can find that is the KlimaDAO app. It works. It's simple. It allows you to search for specific projects by country, by methodology, by vintage, and selectively redeem and retire from specific projects. And as I said, it works. It's easy to use, but also early on, we really were asking ourselves the question of how will people interact with the carbon market moving forward? Particularly, we see the digital carbon market as version 2 of the carbon market. And so what does this future look like? How do people interact in this market as easy as possible, quickly, taking advantage of our instant transaction and instant clearance of carbon credits? But essentially, how are people going to best interact with this market. And so with that, I'm excited to announce this month a new product from KlimaDAO is going live, and we call it Carbonmark. And so you can see the new Carbonmark logo on the screen there. But we're going to give you a sneak peek to give you a little bit of background. So if we can move to the site. Okay, so this is Carbonmark. We're calling it the Universal Carbon Marketplace. It is more transparent, it is neutral, and it is more open than any carbon market experience that has existed before. At launch, we will have the largest selection of digital carbon credits worldwide. You will be able to buy, sell, and retire digital carbon directly from Carbonmark. Similar to our app, you'll be able to search, but now you'll have a much more visual experience as you browse and filter these projects. You'll have access to more information and background on these projects to give you more context. And you can simply click the buy button once you locate a project that is important to you, or you can click the retire button and even use a credit card to directly retire from that specific project. But as I said, you can also sell. So you could purchase some tons and directly list them for sale, which is unique to the market today. And all of this for a 0% additional transaction fee, which is also unique in the industry. So you'll be able to buy, sell, retire carbon with no additional transaction fee from Carbonmark. So we scroll down a little bit. So you can see our wonderful initial launch partners. As I said, we'll have the single greatest selection of digital carbon market at launch that comes from over 20 million tons of credits from hundreds of projects. Go ahead and scroll down. And as I said, you can buy or offset carbon. Very easy. Step 1, step 2, step 3, create a profile. You search for the product. If it's your first time, you'll create a profile. Very easy sign up. This is the standard sign up experience, even though all of the technology behind the scenes is Web3. We're putting a lot of effort into making this experience as easy as possible, even for those that aren't necessarily versed in Web3. And over time, we'll make the experience even easier. Go ahead and scroll down. This now Carbonmark becomes a place, as I said, where you can directly purchase carbon from the marketplace and relist it if you believe there is an opportunity there. You can digitize your own carbon projects through supported bridging. You create your seller profile, and this becomes your storefront. So for project developers directly, this can become the direct to market storefront. For brokers and others, this becomes possibly an additional storefront. But that's really the point here is your seller profile. It lists all of your active listings. It has a bit about you and your organization, as well as all the various details of the assets that you list for sale will be available for viewers. Go ahead and scroll down a bit. For carbon traders, for carbon traders, you have 0% listing fee. As I said, no additional fees are going to be charged from Carbonmark itself. You'll have access to real-time price and transaction data, and that's all on the blockchain. Instant settlement of all trades. I mean, that's, I think, our great big innovation to the market initially is that liquidity that allows for the instant transaction of carbon credits, which is unique to the digital carbon market. Scroll down. And for project developers, this becomes the way in which you can get paid immediately for your verified tons, list and sell for free, and you can sell your carbon directly to your buyers. And so with that, I want to say we're going to be launching this month. We will share a link here that you can be notified of when we go live. So it's coming very soon. And as I said, we're very excited about this. We believe the future of the carbon market needs to be open, transparent, needs to be neutral, and it needs to be available to everyone worldwide according to their needs, as a seller, as a buyer, as a trader. And we believe at launch, you will find immense value in how Carbonmark works. And looking forward, we have a lot of exciting developments for Carbonmark to come. So definitely sign up to be notified when we go live this month. And we hope to hear from you. You'll actually see a little chat button there. So when you do get in and you start using it, if you have any issues, feel free to send us a message and we'll help you out. So thank you for everyone, for sticking around, and to our great partners that spoke with us here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Vishal.
Thanks, Gabriel, for that fantastic unveil walkthrough of the Carbonmark website. As there were quite a few questions coming in as you were presenting there, just to clarify, the website will go live later this month, so stay tuned for that. We really think this builds on and extols the benefits of the KlimaDAO infrastructure. And just like whilst we got you here, we'd like to give you a little shout out to next month's webinar, which is going to dive deeply into the Carbonmark universe, talking about how you can interact with it and what you can get out of it. So if you're a project developer looking to bring new projects online to create digital carbon, if you're a trader looking to finance or leverage digital carbon in other ways, or if you're on the demand side looking to retire specific types, projects, vintages, and look at the marketing benefits that come with that, come along. Like this is one of the most transparent, quickest, and most accessible marketplaces, I think, as Gabriel pointed out. So definitely please come in and check that out. I think the link has been being published right now in the chat. So please do stay tuned for that and come join us.
You just Vishal, real quick. I would say that this is a marketplace that only KlimaDAO could build, just based on the progress we've made to date. And I saw a good question already, and I wanted to answer because it's an excellent question. So underneath Carbonmark, we of course interact with the KlimaDAO Web3 infrastructure. That's to clear trades. But for carbon that's listed directly on Carbonmark, KlimaDAO infrastructure will also have access to that. So it goes two ways, right? So Carbonmark can access KlimaDAO inventory, of course. That's how we're launching with the largest source of digital carbon market in the world. But as projects get directly listed on Carbonmark, that will be directly available to KlimaDAO infrastructure for things like automatic offset, like you saw with Provide Eco. So it's a great question.
Absolutely. And yeah, no, thanks again to the other panelists from our partners and our colleagues. So I guess we just wanted to add, I see someone live typing the link to Onset 3, if you want to follow that, and it's maybe a bit small to see. We move to the question section now. So we had a lot of questions pouring in. We don't have a great deal of time. We've got about 10 minutes before we close off. And we've been trying to live type answers to questions as they come in. I believe Drew has to drop off for a flight, unfortunately, but I think we have a good number of people ready to answer questions that have come in. So I think there was quite a wide gamut of questions coming on Carbonmark. But before we go to those, I think there are a few for the other panelists, some of which have been answered. So I think there was one around EcoRegistry, the standards, and the blockchain that it's running on. You can see all the answered questions in the Q&A as we go through the further questions. I think one of the questions that was coming up a lot was around credit quality and transparency. I don't know if anyone from the panel want to discuss how their solutions are kind of responding to questions of what you can see and what you can understand about the credit quality. I don't know if Juan, maybe you want to kick off, and Gabriel, maybe you could talk about some of the transparency aspects on KlimaDAO.
Thank you, Vishal, and thanks everybody for the questions. So actually, about transparency and quality, we believe that in the future, more important than the standard itself. So the standard will define a framework and a quantification methodology, but the ability to have data and able to provide data analytics solutions to analyze and to help also the assessment of each one of the projects will be more quality. And also the sharing of information and transparency will give everyone the opportunity to do benchmarking and comparing between projects and understand what are the difference and where you can find like the quality of each project and how quality is defined. So I believe that that's the key.
Sai, did you want to talk a bit about how Carbonmark and KlimaDAO are handling transparency? Something I could also cover.
Sure. So, as I said, in Carbonmark, you'll be able to see all the associated information. You'll be able to, there's links to where the project originated, the project origination docs. There's a nice description, various tags of the project that will help you filter and browse. Of course, every transaction is on the blockchain along with its associated information. So that really speaks to the transparency. And generally that allows our users to discriminate on the very specific type of carbon projects according to their needs.
Thanks for that. There are a couple of questions to provide. So one very nice question. Your solution with Provide is fascinating and highly relevant to the work I'm doing. So I think there was a call out for a contact point of how to reach you, Ryan. If you drop that to us, we can drop that in the chat. There was another question, which was, how does commerce play a role in getting these atomic offsets? Thinking of customer orders, is that a use case as well for Scope 3? The question was regarding the atomic offsets that you were talking about and the role of commerce in acquiring these atomic offsets. I think it's quite an interesting area to expand upon, perhaps. There was also the question of whether it's a use case for Scope 3, and I'm not sure.
Yeah. So you're dealing with multi-party business environments, right? So you're dealing with sales orders, purchase orders. It's shared business activity, right? B2B wise, right? And in terms of how the atomic offsets really work is we're really tapping into existing standards and data that enterprises have, where they aggregate carbon, but they aren't necessarily able to share full details of why that emission took place, right? Or how much is there, just because of the rigidity of B2B systems, right? So that carbon aggregation that's with Provide Eco will leverage upon existing carbon accounting tools that integrate to SAP or ServiceNow. We're not trying to reinvent that, but we're tacking onto that data that enterprises are often already collecting and reporting and digitally transforming their business upon. And with Scope 3 in particular, it's the use of proof of atomic offset that enables this use of blockchain to coordinate and synchronize data between partners.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, just this ability to scale solutions with smart contracts and integrate on that end is just it's super exciting. So yeah, I'll just move on to, I guess we've got a couple of minutes. Just there's a flurry of questions about Carbonmark and KlimaDAO. I think we're really going to have to handle those in the FAQ after the session. I think that there was a lot of questions around how Carbonmark, interacts with KlimaDAO and layers on top or around, and what the implications are for the ecosystem. I think we can put out a clearer note on that. So I don't know if you want to speak to any of those questions right now. I could also have I'll give you my quick thoughts, which are that effectively KlimaDAO's built some quite exciting and interesting and important tools for liquidity provisioning and to enable interactions with digital carbon. And Carbonmark really makes this really accessible, open, and easy to use, even for people who aren't really Web3 native. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that. It's a big topic to cover in 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, so one of the best ways to think about Carbonmark is it really acts as the Web 2 interface that sits on top of the KlimaDAO Web 3 infrastructure that we've built there. I see some of these questions here. Will Carbonmark Marketplace work with Klima, the Klima token? Yes, it will. Klima token will be one of the ways in which you can trade for carbon assets. You can use other carbon assets. You can use USDC. And in the case of retirement today at launch, you'll be able to use a credit card to go direct to retirement. How can you log into Carbonmark? Once it goes live, you'll click the login or connect button. You'll be able to sign up with an email, a social login, or a Web3 wallet. Would Carbonmark be available in mobile phone app edition? It is mobile compatible. It won't be a standalone app, but you'll be able to load carbonmark.com up on your phone, and it should look beautiful and work as you expect it. When will Carbonmark website be open to the public? It'll be open this month. And as I said, sign up to be notified exactly when it does launch. How are carbon storefronts validated as high quality? So first, any of the carbon assets that can be listed need to come from a verified bridge. And as Drew shared earlier, there's certain requirements for those assets. And as we heard from EcoRegistry, the nature and type of those assets are evolving. And so as the digital carbon market evolves, we will of course allow other types of assets that are verified come on chain. Let's see, doing like a quick fire here.
You do well getting through a lot of questions. Some people might have to watch back the recording to take the information in.
Yeah, and I can say, we're launching with the basic functionality, buy, sell, trade. That will all work. But as I said, we have some very exciting developments, some partnerships that we're going to be announcing post-launch that enable greater functionality. Really, the best way to think about Carbonmark as a universal carbon market. For that to be successful, for us to really achieve that vision, we'll need to support all the various ways that people can interact with the carbon market. And as I said, we have a lot of exciting announcements coming down the pipe to that end.
Brilliant. We're over the hour now, so I think we should probably call it there. Thanks once again for everyone who attended and for all the panelists. And we're really excited to drive forward this next phase for the ecosystem. And very grateful to have such great contributors on board, both in the chat and in the questions and in the institutions that we're looking to work with. So thanks so much, and see you next time.